So Floyd Mayweather gave an interview this morning on where I saw it was Rizin, R-I-Z-I-N, and he's saying that there's too many champions in boxing, too many belts. Agreed. And by the way, divisional rankings and pound for pound rankings below. Check that out on my website, calixboxing.com. But agreed. The issue is Floyd has a bully pulpit to do something about it, and he has for a while as a fighter, now as a promoter. So do something about it instead of talking, where he can start. And Floyd loves to do this thing where he complains about something, but at the same time he benefits from it. He did it when he was on this anti-drug campaign in Crusade, and then at the same time he had multiple fighters in his own gym getting popped for performance-enhancing drugs and other things. And he's doing the same thing here with belts. When I turn on Showtime and see Tank Davis versus Rolly Romero, and I see it promoted as a championship fight, and I see Tank Davis promoted as a 3-division champion, I start scratching my head and saying, he's a Reggie champion. He's winning regular belts. There's belts in recess, interim belts, belts going wild. But Tank Davis is benefiting from this system that Floyd Mayweather is railing against, and Floyd's railing against it, but at the same time benefiting from it. If Floyd really wanted to do something about this, he would lead by example. He would say, you know what, Showtime, no longer promote Tank Davis as a 3-division champion, because he's not. Because these aren't real belts that he's winning. He didn't win a real belt against Matteo Barrios at 140 because Josh Taylor owns all those belts. He didn't win a real championship. He doesn't have a real belt at 135 because Devin Haney now owns all those belts. Floyd saying, why are these sanctioning bodies taking sanctioning fees from multiple fighters? Well, guess what? Agreed. But he can't get mad at the sanctioning body taking money from Tank Davis, and at the same time Tank Davis benefiting from it by calling himself a champion at 135. He's not a lightweight champion. He's a JV champion at lightweight, but he's not a real lightweight champion, but he's promoting himself as such. And in order to do that, he's got to give sanctioning fees to the sanctioning body. So don't get mad at the sanctioning body from taking sanctioning fees from your fighter and then benefiting from calling yourself a fighter, calling your fighter a champion at the same time. Another thing Floyd likes to do is call him, say he owns some sort of record by beating so many champions and former champions. The only way he would be able to do that is if he was beating inflated champions in recess, former champions in recess, Reggie belt holders. A lot of those guys were not legitimate champions that he was beating. So once again, Floyd is benefiting from calling himself this record holder of beating so many champions and former champions, but at the same time arguing that these guys shouldn't have been champions and former champions. And Floyd loves to do this. He likes to talk out both sides of his mouth. But once again, if he wants to lead by example, start by relinquishing Tank's belts. Saying, look, Tank's bigger than this belt. Let's give it up. Devin Haney's the only champion at lightweight. This is by Floyd's theory, by the way. Floyd saying, in theory, that Devin Haney is the only real champion at 135. So if Tank wants to be a real champion at 135, he has to fight Devin Haney. This is by Floyd's logic. All right? So relinquish Tank Davis's Reggie belt. Floyd has the authority to do this. Floyd can lead by example here. Tell Tank, give up this belt, and then tell Showtime in their pay-per-views to stop promoting Tank Davis as a multi-division champion when he is not. And this is by Floyd's own logic, by the way. But what Floyd cannot do, and what boxing fans should not, and journalists especially, should not allow him to do, is get away with talking out both sides of his mouth, get away with benefiting from this process, but at the same time railing against it in his fake crusade, much like his fake crusade against drug abuse in boxing. You shouldn't get credit for this crusade, which is a rightful crusade, by the way, if we take it at face value, if Floyd's being honest here, it's a crusade that I could get behind. Less belts, less drug use in boxing, but we all know he's not being genuine here. He wants to benefit from it and at the same time act like he's doing something against it. If he was really doing something against it, he'd tell Showtime, stop promoting this guy as a multi-division champion, and he would relinquish that fake belt at 135, his own fighter, Tank Davis. God bless.